The Miami Hurricanes are convincing even their biggest detractors that they're the real deal. And they're convincing their biggest detractors that even when it comes down to some of the coaching issues that we all believe exist when it comes to game clock management, etc., when it comes to Mario Cristobal, even they're admitting now that, you know what? The talent gap is getting so large in Coral Gables that can overcome some of the issues. And we're going to take a look at this video here from ACC Football Addiction. TJ Pittenger, he is an FSU podcaster. I've watched him before. I think he's a pretty fair guy overall, except when he picked FSU to beat Miami. I thought that was not real. I mean, he knew. He knew. And he knows now. And he says it in this video, man. I watched the video and I want to play it for y'all, and it's about 12 minutes long. I'm gonna do it in a faster speed though, so that we can actually get through it more quickly. But I think you need to listen to this, and we're gonna comment on it and we'll cut in because I can't just do it all the way through without cutting in. But take a listen to what TJ Pittenger had to say from ACC Football Addiction. Make sure you subscribe to that podcast. He also does college football addiction. And but definitely check out all these podcasts because he does a great job over there. But welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Hurricanes Unfiltered, powered by Come On Now, the podcast. I am your host, Rudy Rodriguez Showmock. Hit the bell, leave a comment, like the video, let us know your thoughts, share the content. We appreciate y'all continued support as we continue to bust through 13,000. Man, we've gotten. I feel so blessed. We've done so well over the past few days on some of these hurricane videos that I'm so excited. You know, we're up to 13,000 as of right now, as a recording. We are up to 13,267 subscribers. Here I was hoping to get past 13,000 just a couple of days ago, and we've jumped that up by another 250 plus. And I mean, heck, I got a new goal now, people. Get me to 14,000 by Thursday night's game, man. Let's do this thing. I appreciate y'all, but let's take a listen to this video and then we'll comment as it goes on. I think you're going to enjoy this. I think you're going to truly enjoy this because I enjoyed it.
Miami fans, we really need to sit down and have a serious talk right now. I know we go back, and some of that is bad blood with me being a diehard FSU fan, but we're going to need to put those things aside today. Because as much as it pains me, I have to admit some crap that I never thought I'd say. Multiple things that I never thought I'd say. Now, really quickly, this is our brand new ACC Football Addiction channel. None of our content is changing. We're just segmenting where we post some of it so that things don't get lost. If you know us from College Football Addiction or Double Fries No Slaw, we'll still be over there, but make sure you are subscribed here so you don't miss anything. I'm going to reveal some things today, and honestly, I'm going to admit some things that I never thought that I'd say about a rival. 4 things specifically that I have to admit. You guys are going to want to stick around for the last one because I promise you, it's something you never thought you'd hear from an FSU fan. The first thing that I have to admit is that I was dead wrong about Mario Cristobal. This is difficult because for years, I've banked on a very specific narrative that has comforted me during the offseason. I thought Mario's game time management was awful. And
look, I don't disagree with him on that. I have thought that for quite some time. So I don't disagree with that, but let's continue.
Hasn't really changed because we all see that timeouts are sometimes burnt. There's confusion in the 2-minute drill. I think he's capable of doing some stupid things that make you guys want to throw your remotes through the TV on Saturdays.
Absolutely.
But I am ready to admit that he recruits well enough to overcome his lack of game time awareness. This is the pill that I have to swallow after watching another recruiting cycle overflowing with 5 stars. He's recruiting beasts that simply physically outmatch the scheme issues that might arise during any specific game. He's coaching the players and has hired guys to coach players with good technique and physicality. And as much as I hate to say it, it does remind me of some of those dominant teams from the 80s and early 2000s. Now, don't get me wrong. He doesn't always do the best in a high-pressure moment when the stadium is shaking, and he doesn't always make the right calls managing the clock, as we have seen finish in disastrous fashion in the past. But outside of those minor things, he's doing a better job of stacking talent than anyone gave him credit for a few years ago. He's doing a much better job of that than other programs in Florida who are struggling to keep their own backyard locked down.
I think one of the biggest issues that I think one of the biggest issues is that we didn't all understand what Mario Cristobal's vision might have been. And I think that's one of the issues that existed, is that we didn't know the direction of what we were going. And what I mean by that is you go and you bring in Cam Ward, right? You bring in Cam Ward. Well, let's go back. Let's go back to year one. You're 4-0 or whatever it was, and then you have that game against Georgia Tech and you blow it on that not kneeling the ball down, and that pretty much destroyed the season right there. The season ended that night because the players on that team no longer trusted their coach. They no longer trusted him. You can sit here and say whatever. They did not trust him anymore because that decision cost them a game, and it basically spiraled out of control for the remainder of the season. You had Tyler Van Dyke situation going on there, and he didn't mesh well with Mario after. And consider the fact that we thought Van Dyke would be a very, very solid quarterback. He didn't mesh well with Mario, and didn't work out, right? That season ends up being a complete disaster. But what we've now seen is then you move it into the fact where you bring in Cam Ward. Now Cam Ward is a gunslinger, the complete opposite of what you think that Mario's trying to build. Because Mario builds with big boys up front. He's a lineman. He wants a big lineman. And he wants to maul people. But when you bring in Cam Ward, that's kind of the opposite of what you're looking to do, right? So now here we are right now. And this season, we're now finally getting what I think Mario's goal was to have a monster offensive line, which Miami has, have a monster defensive line, which Miami has, and play a physical bully brand of football, which I'm all for. I'm all for it now that I know that that's what you're looking to do. The problem is I didn't have any idea what the actual goal was. I didn't know what the vision was because Mario's never been completely forthcoming about what his vision really was. We got a quarterback this year in Carson who's the complete opposite of Cam Ward. He's not a gunslinger, especially now. Maybe he was more at Georgia, but he's definitely not a gunslinger now. He's a much more methodical player and tries to avoid doing the risky things, I guess, And even though people still criticize him for stuff that happened at Georgia over a couple of games, and they make up stuff like, oh, he can throw 4 picks. Yeah, he can throw 4 picks. So could anybody. So could anybody. If you're if things happen a certain way, yeah, anybody could throw 4 picks. I don't know if Patrick Mahomes has ever thrown 4 picks, but I'm sure he probably has. If he hasn't, I'd be shocked. I think pretty much any quarterback can throw 4 picks in the right situation. But let's continue. But now we know the direction. We now know what he wants to do. He wants to have a physical ass football team.
But we're not going to name names regarding the failures of the rest of the state of Florida today. You guys know who they are. The reality is that when you have a roster full of NFL bodies, the margin of error for the head coach expands significantly. You can afford to burn a timeout early in the third quarter when your defensive line can simply erase the opponent's next drive on the very next play. The talent accumulation strategy is actually rendering the game day coaching criticism obsolete because your players are just better.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings me to a realization that hurts my soul, but needs to be said. You cannot out-scheme a roster that is deeper, faster, and stronger at almost every single position group. This depth is the secret weapon that allows Miami to survive the grind of the college football playoff. I used to laugh at the Cristobal usage rate jokes, but now I understand that he is building a team designed to bully people for 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. And speaking of bullying, we need to look at what's coming next for this roster. The next thing that I have to admit to you guys is you are probably going to the national title game. Ole Miss slayed.
He must have felt sick saying that, bro. He must have felt absolutely sick saying that. I mean, I'm just being real. He couldn't have enjoyed saying that. But I tip my cap to him for saying it. Yes, I would be shocked if Miami didn't beat Ole Miss. Like, I'm not going to sit here and pussyfoot around. I think this is the most clear of the 3 games that Miami's played that, yeah, I expect Miami to beat Ole Miss. Do I know what the score is going to be? No. I'll have a prediction for you on Tuesday with my score. We'll see what it is. I'm still thinking about what it's going to be. I've watched enough Ole Miss football already, gone through enough of their stuff to pretty much know what they do and And I know who Trinidad Chambliss is, but yeah, pretty much going in. I mean, it would be shocking. I think most people would be shocked if Miami didn't beat Ole Miss.
The Dragon by taking down Georgia in the previous round, which was assumed impossible by everyone. I don't think they are ready for Bain and that defensive line that has been wreaking havoc on quarterbacks all season long. The matchup in the trenches is especially skewed in favor of the Hurricanes, despite what the SEC media machine wants you to believe. The biggest reason I think Miami has this is not even what's happening on the field. The biggest reason I think Miami has this is not even what's happening on the field. I think the Ole Miss AD is sick of having LSU spies coaching his team and creating distractions in the locker room. There are rumors swirling that half the offensive staff in Oxford has one foot out the door toward Baton Rouge, which means that Ole Miss is a team that is going to war with Miami with 6 of its best generals tapping out, or at the very least distracted by their next paycheck.
I mean, I talked about this already in a video I did that, the reports are is that they're not going to have most of their offensive assistant coaches, that they're already at LSU dealing with recruits for the portal. And the only guy that they're definitely going to have coaching at Ole Miss for this game is Charlie Weiss Jr., who even himself was in Baton Rouge, which tells you that he's not completely focused on doing his job. And I mean, I actually feel bad for the players at Ole Miss. I think that was a massive mistake that Pete Golding made by not just dumping those guys immediately and saying, get the hell out of here. We're going to get a practice game against Tulane that we're going to win no matter what. We can get used to whatever we're going to get used to. But now you got a whole big mess here, and you're going to have a bunch of missing coaches, and it's going to be a whole cluster freaking fuck of shit. And I mean, hey, I don't know how much it will affect them, but it's definitely not something that's easy to deal with when you're getting ready for the biggest game of your life.
This isn't going to work against a defensive front that plays with the violence that Miami has displayed over the better part of the season. You cannot prepare for a national semifinal when your coaching staff is fracturing from the inside due to carousel rumors. Meanwhile, Miami is locked in with a singular focus that reminds me of the swagger from the Jimmy Johnson days. The chaos at Ole Miss is the perfect storm for Miami to capitalize on early confusion and sit on a lead. When you analyze the Ole Miss offensive line, they really have struggled against elite speed rushers all season long. And Miami possesses the exact type of personnel that gives any kind of a Lane Kiffin offense nightmares. Personally, I see a scenario where the Ole Miss tempo actually works against them because they can't sustain blocks against your front four.
Yeah, that's something I've seen in film. They're not a short passing team. They like to throw it down the field. And when you like to throw it down the field, what are you going to allow? What's going to happen? You're going to have opportunities to get to the quarterback, and you're going to have a lot more time to get back there, to make his life absolutely miserable. And I do agree with that. I think that tempo, Ole Miss has a cute offense. They have a cute offense. And I don't think Georgia's that damn good. Like you call it slaying the dragon. You know what Georgia doesn't have? They don't have a pass rush. Like they have no pass rush. And I'm going to talk about this more on another video, but Georgia has no pass rush. So against a guy like Trinidad Chambliss, and they did play twice, they were getting their heads beaten in the first time they played each other. But Ole Miss blew the lead. I think Ole Miss is probably better than Georgia because I don't think Georgia's that damn good. They're good, but they're not that damn good. And Ole Miss, I mean, realistically, I think they lost that first game because Lane Kiffin kind of chokes in big situations, if you want to be completely honest. And Pete Golding damn near choked that game away himself. There's a mental hurdle you got to get over to beat a team like that who always seems to have your number. But yeah, it's one of those things. I mean, they got blown out last year by Georgia, 28-10. They got blown out by them. They blew the first game this year when they're leading by, by 9 or 10 points going to the fourth quarter, whatever it was. In this game, they nearly blew. They did not nearly. They did blow a 10-point lead inside of 7 minutes of the fourth quarter. So, yeah, let's continue.
This leads to quick 3 and outs and puts a tired Ole Miss defense back on the field against your offense. It's a recipe for a blowout that nobody in the national media is predicting because they're blinded by the SEC patch on the jersey.
I'm glad he said that. And what he's saying is this, for those that don't understand what he's saying. And I'm sure most of you do, but I'm going to explain for those of you who don't. The tempo will affect Ole Miss negatively with a couple of things. One, let's say Miami has the ball. Let's say Miami drives the ball down 10 plays, 75 yards, scores a touchdown, makes it 7-0. Whatever, 7-0. And then Ole Miss goes 3 and out. Quick, which in their offense will take like a minute. It could be literally less than a minute. 3 and out, less than a minute. Miami gets the ball right back. Boom, 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 boom. You have an exhausted defense that just got ramrodded. You ramrod them again, and that's now 14-0. And now you have an offense that's playing from behind against defensive linemen who are gearing to knock your head off. And let's say you do that same thing again, 3 and out one more time. Now your off defense is going back onto the field, having had to deal with 20 plays for like 12 minutes of time of possession, because that's how Miami's offense works. Your offense has had the ball for 6 plays for like less than 2 minutes. And now your defense is going to see them for another 10-play drive again. And now you have a 21-0 game, and the game is freaking over. The game is over. The game is absolutely over because you can't run the ball anymore. Or at least they won't run the ball anymore because they're going to go immediately into panic mode and just try to start chucking it all over the field. Yes, this game could turn out into a blowout very early on if certain things happen. And the only way to be a blowout is that Miami's blowing Ole Miss out, because Ole Miss ain't blowing Miami out. I've watched Ole Miss on offense. They have a good offense. Yes, they have the number 2 rated yardage offense. Yes, they get chunks of yards. Yes, they score points. Their defense can't stop a fucking runny nose. Their run defense is going to get absolutely pulverized by Miami's front line. And if they decide to bring 8-9 guys into the box, guess what's going to happen? Carson Beck is going to have the game of his life. He's going to have the game of his life. And that's what happens when you decide to have that tempo. But again, you can go look at Ole Miss's schedule, man. They played Georgia twice. That's their schedule. They played Oklahoma. Okay. Florida sacked Trinidad Chambliss 5 times. I'll leave that there.
But I see the truth. And the truth is that Miami is significantly more stable right now than the team they're about to face. And stability comes from the fact that your star players are playing for the U and not their next transfer portal destination. This brings us to the individual brilliance that is powering the playoff run. I need to talk about a specific player who many have tried to downplay for 2 years now, but that nobody can any longer deny. The next thing that I have to admit is that Ruben Bain is a legit top 10 pick. I keep hearing all this noise about his arm length being short and how that translates to the NFL combine metrics, blah, blah, blah. They talk about his wingspan not meeting the prototypical thresholds that general managers usually drool over. But this dude is an absolute stud who defies every single measurement you try to put on him. Sometimes you just have to ignore stats and look at what you see on the field when the lights are the brightest. And I see a man pouring his heart out on every single snap, regardless of the score or the quarter. He's being used like a workhorse who refuses to come off the field even when he is clearly exhausted. He's dominating teams with a mixture of leverage and power and a motor that simply does not exist in other prospects. Ruben Bain Jr. is the closest thing I have seen to a throwback Hurricane defender in the last 15 years. He plays with a level of disrespect for the opponent that makes him a nightmare to block for 60 minutes. I have watched him split double teams from Clemson, Florida State, and Notre Dame without losing a step. The scouts who are obsessed with arm length are going to miss out on a generational talent who wins with pure will. He reminds me of all those legendary defenders who were told that they were too small, but somehow they ended up in the Hall of Fame. When you watch his film, you see offensive tackles quitting halfway through the third quarter because they're tired of his physicality. That's not something you can measure with some tape measure at a combine in Indy. He has the it factor, and he has more of it than any defensive lineman in the country right now. I have to admit that I'm terrified of what he's going to do in the NFL because he's only getting better. I'm just thankful it won't be against Florida State once he goes there. His hand usage has also improved every single week, and he's now winning with technique as much as he has power. If you're a Miami fan, you should be ordering his jersey right now because he is going to be a Sunday superstar. It hurts to say this as an FSU fan, but he is the best defensive player in the state of Florida by a pretty wide margin. And his dominance is a large reason why I have to pivot to the most painful realization of the entire video. Because while Miami is ascending with players like Bain, my Noles are heading in the complete opposite direction. The contrast between the two programs has never been more stark than it is right at this moment. The last thing that I have to admit is that FSU is cooked for as long as Mike Norvell and Mario Cristobal are the head coaches at their respective universities. This is the...
That's wild that he said that. That's wild. That's wild. And I think the petrifying thing for him as an FSU guy is the fact that if Miami does win the national championship, all the conversations and all the players that leave South Florida, they're not going anywhere now. They're going to believe the vision because it was done. And they're going to stay in South Florida. The guys from Dade, Broward County and Palm Beach County, who for so many years were the backbone of this football program, are no longer going to leave. Guys that might have gone to Florida State or Florida or Ohio State or Alabama or Georgia, they're going to stay in Miami. Why? Because Miami's winning. And while people might say the fact that no one goes to their games, that's all nonsense. When Miami wins, people go to the games. People go to the games. When Miami wins, people will go. It's very simple. I can promise you that if Miami's playing the national championship, that place will be 85%, 80 to 85% Miami Hurricane fans. It's going to be a road game for whoever they play. And it's going to be the loudest place you've been in probably a quarter century. Because the amount of energy that the Miami Hurricane fans are going to have for this national championship is going to be like nothing you've ever seen before. Like people, there's a generation of people who have never seen Miami win. A generation. Like you're talking, if you were born in 2003, 2002, you've never seen Miami win. If you were born in 2000, you've never seen Miami win. You were a baby. You don't remember it. You're 25 years old right now. You've never seen Miami win a meaningful bowl game until this year. You've never seen it. So this is like a complete new thing to you. And in South Florida, when you win, when you're the big dog at the head of the table, the spoils that come with that in Dade and Broward County for the University of Miami, it's like nothing you've ever seen before. Like it's like nothing you've ever seen before. University of Miami Hurricanes football team winning football games. I saw a funny video where someone said, you're going to have all the different gangs coming to the damn stadium. It's obviously being funny, but you're going to have all the different gangs coming to the damn stadium, all wearing orange and green. They're all going to be united for that one night. They're all going to be united for that one night if Miami's in the national championship. University of Miami football brings people together down here more than any sport, more than the Heat, more than the Marlins, more than the Dolphins, more than the Panthers. The Miami Hurricanes football program brings people together in South Florida like you've never seen, like you've never seen before. And you're gonna see the most ridiculous, bro, pots and pans. Bro, there'll be pots and pans going from from Key West to fucking Jupiter, bro. Like it's gonna be insane. So let me continue.
Worst admission, because it signifies a shifting of the guard that's going to last more than just 1 year.
Absolutely.
Because we kept Mike after 2-10 and 5-7, there is no telling how long FSU is willing to ride with him. The administration in Tallahassee has shown a tolerance for mediocrity that is frankly embarrassing to the legacy of Bobby Bowden.
Problem is they have a $70 million buyout. I mean, I think it's 70. It's $70 million, 60 or $70 million. They don't have the money. FSU is stuck. And I know he knows this, but they're stuck. They've called their boosters. Their boosters won't pay it. I know this for a fact. Been told this by guys in the boosters at Florida State. They're big money guys. They will not cut the check. They just cut checks to rebuild the stadium. They're not cutting any more checks. They're not paying $60 million. So they're going to deal with probably another couple of years of dog shit to lower that buyout amount. I mean, I have heard that if he starts off, poorly, that they'll dump him. But they weren't able to do it this year, and I thought he'd be done this year. They just can't pay for him. They don't have the money to do it.
I love my Noles, and I hate Miami with every fiber of my being. But when the FSU admin chose to keep Norvell this offseason,
no, you don't.
It likely surrendered the 2026 Miami game before the two teams even step on the field. We are looking at a talent gap that has widened into a canyon over the last 24 months. I mean, short of some kind of vintage Mario forgetting how to kneel at the end of the game scenario, we are cooked in every meaningful way. The on-field product is just a symptom of the larger disease, which is the talent acquisition disparity. And as far as recruiting, Mike is being put in a locker by Mario and having his lunch money stolen every single day. And that talent is just too much to overcome when you line up 11 guys on 11 on a Saturday night. Mario is winning the battles for South Florida kids that used to consider Florida State a destination. He's locking down the Tri-County area in a way that forces FSU to recruit second-tier players from other states. When you look at the blue chip ratio, Miami is climbing toward the elite tier while Florida State is hovering around 20th. Mike Norvell simply does not have the closing ability that Mario possesses when it comes to living rooms. And in college football, if you can't win in the living room, you can't win on the field against your rivals. I look at the 2026 roster projections, and I see a Miami team loaded with future NFL draft picks. I look at the FSU roster, and I see NFL prospects, but mostly it's a collection of transfer portal Band-Aids that are not cohesive.
Miami's got 14 or 15 guys that are going to get drafted off this team right now. That'll be drafted off the team right now. And I mean guys that are going to this year's draft, not guys that are on the team, but guys that are going to go into this year's draft. Miami's going to have 14 or 15 draft picks this year. This year, in April, whenever the draft is, they're going to have 14 or 15 draft picks. And probably 3 first-round picks. Yet, people will act like Miami don't have a crazy amount. Miami's ridiculously talented. Miami's ridiculously talented.
The scary part for us is that Mario is doing this while still making questionable game day decisions. Imagine if Mario actually figures out the clock management side of things. That's a nightmare scenario that should keep Florida State fans awake at night. We are staring down the barrel of a potential Miami dynasty if the on-field coaching improves just a tad. So as much as it pains me to say it, the climb that Mike Norvell always talks about seems to have hit a glass ceiling while Miami is taking the elevator. Or perhaps we're climbing down the ladder. I have to admit that the swagger seems to be back in Coral Gables, and it's earned this time. For years, we mocked the turnover chain and the empty hype that surrounded the program, but it does not feel like the empty hype is what it is anymore. It feels like this is sustainable infrastructure. The boosters are aligned, the recruiting is elite, and the path to the playoffs is very clear. And frankly, the fact that I'm sitting here admitting all this crap is proof that the tide has turned. I never thought I'd see the day where I would concede all of this, especially to a rival. But the denial phase is over, and I've moved straight into acceptance that this is our new reality. Now, one day, after Norvell is gone, FSU will get back, and you guys should believe that those butt whoopings are coming, but it's not today. Thank you guys for watching our new channel. Again, don't miss any of our content. I would appreciate a ton if you subscribed. You guys are in the playoff right now, and we'll continue to cover that. Thank you guys so much for watching ACC Football Addiction.
Go subscribe to that channel right now, people. Go subscribe to that channel right now. Great channel. I appreciate the video as a Hurricane fan, and I think it's a realness to it. And I think one of the things that he didn't mention is that the reality is if Miami wins this national championship, the recruiting gap is just going to get deeper, get wider, and Miami's going to start keeping all those guys in home that have otherwise left in the past. Y'all let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Ring that bell. Make sure you follow ACC Football Addiction. I have included them in the description. But I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you in the next one. Hit that like button, subscribe. This is Hurricanes Unfiltered, powered by Come On Now, the podcast. Come on now.